Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this live stream tonight. My name is Helen Argeru, and I am the host for tonight's panel. We have a very special guest, Dr. Shauli Mukherjee. She's actually from India, and she is an expert on the 21st century skill set. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this live stream tonight that we are encouraging young people to develop, and we're going to find out some details about what that skill set includes and why it's really important to be honing the skill set for the future. And before we get there, we're going to have a few insight-based questions on really what are the challenges that youth are now facing and how can we help our young people look towards the future with more hope and more promise after the whole COVID pandemic, and how can we begin to weave these different skills together so that young people have an opportunity to really develop some very specific abilities that they will need in the future. So Dr. Shauli Mukherjee is actually the director and dean at Adamas University. She's considered a thought leader and an inspirational speaker. And it was very interesting to open out our LinkedIn conversations earlier on in the year together around many different passion areas that we shared around youth and around the future generation of leadership that's going to be happening from young people and their vision for the future. So when we're looking into the challenges that young people are facing, we want to begin to weave together some wisdom from our youth experts and even listening to some young people share their experiences with us. Certain insights around how can we stay focused on very specific points. What kind of gaps are there in the development of young minds and hearts? And how can we as older, maybe more experienced professionals work with these guests? If you're on the call, can I ask you to mute, please, so that we can keep some background noise managed? And for everyone else watching on the live stream, we very much welcome you to bring in your questions or comments. If you would like to address something specific on the call tonight, you are very welcome to do so on the chat. Now, if you haven't heard about us, we're called Women of Truth. This is a movement that started 5 years ago, really looking at how we can support women's wisdom to reach more and more people around the world. So we actually are running the summit for 7 days. Every night a special guest, and tonight, as I mentioned, the director and dean of Adamas University. Welcome, Dr. Shauli Mukherjee. A very great honor to have you here tonight.
Thank you so much, Helen. It's absolutely a pleasure to be on this platform today. And that too with such a pertinent topic as the urgent need for honing and nurturing 21st century skill sets among Generation Z. So, especially because this topic is so very close to my heart and myself being a passionate academician for the past 23 years. So all through my educational career as an educational thought leader, I have actually been dealing with the young mind. So yes, it's a very, very pertinent topic, and it's kind of a topic which is very close to my heart as well. So right at the very outset, I would like to say that we all know that the 21st century world, the world that we live in, is actually a VUCA world. It's a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world where we are faced with unheard of and unique challenges almost on a daily basis. And since the turn of the century, the chaotic, the turbulent, and the rapidly changing environments in which we live have actually become the new normal for all of us. In fact, the only thing which has remained constant is the sheer unpredictability of the basic dynamics of the world that we inhabit. And as educators and as education thought leaders, I think, it's high time that we should all realize the fact that the real world, which is actually beyond the confines of a fancy physical infrastructure of an educational institution, actually rewards those amply who can think out of the box and can carve their own path. And in order to sustain and thrive in this 21st century, ever increasingly complex workforce, the learners, that is the young learners, they have to be oriented more towards collaboration and cooperation rather than cutthroat competition. And in order to address and challenge the emerging global complexities, the world doesn't require mechanically trained minds, minds which are loaded with facts and figures, minds which are systematically formulated to think alike. No, that is not what the world requires right now. And in fact, the global pandemic has, made it very clear that what the world requires right now are creative and innovative minds, minds which are capable of divergent thinking, minds which are capable of out of the box ideation. So, this is exactly what the world requires. And when we speak about, the need to nurture and hone the 21st century skill sets among the Generation Z, I think right at the very outset, let us, uh, you know, uh, let us revisit some of uh, the common characteristics of this particular generation. I mean, we all meet this generation, day in and day out. We interact with them, or they are in our classrooms, whether online or offline. But what are the common characteristics that is there in Generation Z? That's very important for all of us to understand. We have to understand that this particular generation is highly entrepreneurial. That is their potential risk taker. They have creative and innovative ideas. They're not afraid to chase those ideas. And they believe that everything that they do not know currently is actually a simple click or two away. They are digital natives as opposed to us who are digital migrants. They're focused, they're competitive, and patience is in fact a lost art for them. They want everything now. So they believe in the concept of instant gratification. And they also welcome change. They're constantly seeking new ideas, they're constantly seeking new experiences, and they're always up for challenges. They also prefer independence and freedom above anything else. And the most important characteristic is that they want to be heard. Now this is something which is very, very significant. They want to be heard and they believe that their ideas are truly valuable. And freedom of expression is, absolutely essential to this particular generation. They truly care and they want to make a positive difference in the world. They have a desire to create or find meaning in almost everything that they do. And they have a motivation to contribute to the world in a positive and in a tangible manner. Now, what one of the major things that we have to understand is that they are technology dependent as opposed to technology fluency. fluency. So one of the major mistakes that we do with this particular generation is that we always tell them that we don't really know what is going to happen to this particular generation. They're always addicted to their, technical gadgets. But we have to understand that their technology dependence is not an addiction. Rather, they view their digital devices as extensions of themselves. They truly live and breathe the virtual connection life. Social media is, in fact, a very, very crucial element for this particular generation. And they are not after work life balance so much as they want to establish a proper work life blend. Now, we have to understand that there's a basic difference between work life balance and a work life blend. They do not believe in the concept of work life balance. They are after a proper work life blend. And they're always expecting flexibility with their work as well as with their entire life schedule. So this is exactly, the nature and characteristic of the Generation Z that we are talking about. So we have to understand that if these are the basic characteristics of this particular generation, the conventional and traditional form of education, which believes in the concept of metaphorically drawing and coloring within the lines, that is always encouraging the young learners to comply and to conform and to compete, where every single learner is given the same amount of time to learn the same thing in the same way and preferably on the same day. So, this kind of a conventional education system is not meant for this particular generation. So, this is not going to serve them any purpose, because I strongly believe that being an educator for the past 2.5 decades or so, I strongly believe that our current education system is merely a byproduct of the 19th century industrial revolution, which still promotes a one size fits all educational structure, which views all the learners essentially as the same. So, I call this a factory model of productivity, which views all the learners in the same manner. So, this kind of educational structure is definitely not going to work for this particular generation, because their needs and demands are so very different and they're geared in a very, very different manner. So, the thing that we have to do, the thing that we have to understand and appreciate and acknowledge is that since our current education system does not give any clarity on the creativity, innovation, and passion of the learners, we have to make a paradigm shift from the too organized, formal, rigidly structural form of education to a kind of an educational system which is personalized, happy, fulfilling, and stress free, as well as an organic learning ecosystem. So, this is the shift that we have to facilitate. Otherwise, we are actually doing a disservice to this particular generation Z. So this is my strong belief, and this is exactly what I, believe in.
Very powerful statements. I loved so much how you reframed some of the struggles that older generations are having with Generation Z, X, millennials, and the instant gratification, and really positioning a kind of compassionate view towards youth as a really unique generation living on the planet right now, faced with a totally different level of literacy and reliance on technology, and really understanding that at the core depth when you start talking about that really important shift between this struggle position that many of us, let's say in older years, have been having with life work balance, never quite succeeding, so many problems with that idea, and this let's say a distinctive wish that young people have to actually blend work and life together. It adds such a lot of respect and credibility to the challenge that we see them having, inheriting this whole new system of tech and life, social media, and then actually looking for a way to make it merge and work together. So it venerates the challenge and makes us, certainly me, think in a whole new way about that. So I want to really thank you for that. It's a very powerful pivot. But also coming into what you're now suggesting, let's see if we can go into this a little bit, into the thick of it, Dr. Shauli. And I would love to bring Dr. Beth and Amber Leon onto the call at some point where they can interact with our comments here as well. At a certain moment, it would be lovely to start hearing us discuss just a little. We won't have much time, but if a few minutes for that would be really great. So if we really look at the challenges facing young people now into the future, you speak about the older generations, or let's say more established systems, which, we've been talking a lot about this paradigm shift in education. And I know Dr. Sarah Ken Robinson speaks very poignantly on it, and many people are following to recognize and admit that absolutely we have to make a shift, a paradigm shift in the way we educate. And I, for one, have always believed that this whole interactive experiential learning, creative dynamic is so important in learning, and it's been lost every day in our systems. And I try to bring it back with the work I do in different ways. And I've seen how important it is, especially for diverse thinking and, you know, really innovative, out the box nature. So if we look at the challenges that young people are facing post COVID around this, I'm going to call it a slow burn on this shift in education. I know you're doing exponential quantum leaps in how you're educating young people at the university there, and I've seen some really amazing accolades coming your way, so I want to honor that. So I would imagine you have a very important viewpoint on this. So if we look at the true challenge that they are having in trying to integrate with this older generational system that's sort of not fitting so well with all these needs that young people have. Did you notice something very specific coming out of the COVID challenge, or is it pretty much the same stuff that young people were grappling with before? And if so, what is this challenge that is now on the youth horizon that wasn't there before?
So I personally look at this particular, the present context of the global pandemic from an educator's lens. If I
Right.
have to look through an educator's lens, I would say that COVID has definitely brought about a lot of positive disruptions in the field of education. And when I say a lot of positive disruptions, what I mean is that had it not been for COVID, it would have taken maybe another 10 or 15 years to bring these positive shifts in the field of education, which we have actually been able to see in the last 1.5 years. So, in terms of education, well, there has been a lot of positive, shifts and differences which have been created. So, even if you consider from the point of view of a young learner, you must acknowledge the fact and appreciate the fact that they have become, much more responsible, and they have become self-paced learners, and they have started taking responsibility and ownership of their own learning, which was not happening in that way earlier. So earlier it had been, an adult-led or a teacher-led education, you know, mostly. But what COVID has brought about is that you have to be, you have to be a self-motivated learner, and that lifelong learning is something that you need to, believe in. So, in terms of the young learner, in terms of the teachers, even in terms of the parental role in the education, I see a lot of positive shifts which have happened and which have been ushered in due to the COVID, due to the global pandemic.
So
So
wonderful.
I'm sure, and also additionally, I would also like to state it's not only about the academic credentials, or it's not only about the academic skills. Consider the resilience quotient which had been increased among our youth. Consider the life skills which they have learned during this very, very important phase in the last 1.5 years. I mean, these are the kind of learnings which are going to stay with them for the rest of the part of their life. They might forget whatever they have learned in the earlier grades, immediately after the examination. I mean, sadly enough, this is the situation of our current education system, that it encourages rote learning and excessive memorization. So maybe they will be forgetting about the academic stuff which they have, learned, but they will never forget the life skills which they have actually been able to nurture during this particular time, the kind of resilience which they have been able to master during this particular phase of their life, the kind of, they have understood that there are so many things which they can actually not take for granted, which they used to take for granted earlier. So these are real learning. These are not in the pages of a book. So these are the real learnings which come from life. And this is something which is going to stay with them for the rest of the part of their life. And also, it's high time that they should realize that it's not when you walk out with a certificate or a degree in your hand out of your university completing your formal higher education, that is when your learning stops. No, that is in fact the time when your real learning starts. And that particular learning continues throughout your life. And not only that, you have to be a self-motivated and a lifelong learner, but you have to continuously learn, relearn, and unlearn at the same time across all the significant phases of your life. So I think these factors have become very important in the last 1.5 years.
Excellent comments. So positive and encouraging hearing you give us this feedback, because again, I hear something very instrumental around self-leadership, around self-reliance, resilience, which certainly for many people across the planet, we've really shifted in terms of even our EQ. You know, we've grown exponentially. I really see that. And with young people, as hard as this time's been, if any of you are watching this video, we want you to know that we are acknowledging the incredible growth that's happened in the challenging time. And certainly, as you've put it, Dr. Shauli, there's been very specific gold nuggets that could never have been taught in any educational system through this time. And I think, you know, sometimes we are forced by life circumstances to cultivate, to develop skills within us, like you say, life skills, and really specific ways of looking at things. I bring on now my next guest, Amber Ann Leon's a global leader, Young Leaders Club at World Women's Conference and Awards leader. She's very focused on youth, and I very much enjoy the fact that we can speak with her tonight. She will be showcasing her wisdom and her words of support and guidance for young people tomorrow night, where we speak to her at length. But tonight we bring her on just to have a comment here, if you like, Amber, about this positive impact that you also see in youth post-COVID. What would you like to say about that from the United States? Do you see anything distinctive, or is it something similar to Dr. Shauli? What would you say about young people? What have they cultivated? What has been positive in terms of growth mindset or positive change?
Well, first of all, thank you. I wasn't expecting to say anything today. I just came on to support and to be a part of the and hear the conversation and just show my support and being part of the Women of Truth Youth Summit. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Helen, for having me. Dr. Shauli, your information that you just gave, you see me smiling and saying yes, and because I'm right there with you in regards to everything that you shared when it comes to the young people and the youth of today. People say our youth are our tomorrow and our future, but I say that they are today. They are our present, because they're making their mark on the world right now. So I would say that definitely one of the things that I resonate with a lot that you talked about was their desire to have a voice. They want to be heard. In COVID, we just celebrated with our Healing Pain Through the Arts Youth Program, and I'll talk about that tomorrow. But we just celebrated youth and our youth Healing Pain Through the Arts Youth Spotlight Awards. We honored our youth who have remained resilient during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they showed that in many different ways. And I put a message in the chat here about my own grandson, who at 10 years old rose to the occasion of being able to go into virtual learning and wake himself up. He has parents that are responsible parents, but he took on the ownership of waking himself up, knowing what times his breaks was, knowing what times his classes was. I remember being over there doing COVID-19 at some point, saying, "You need help, Grandma, I got this." But like you said, they rose to the occasion and became responsible. Now, there are a lot that didn't, because I've heard the stories, them sleeping through, not turning in assignments. But a lot of our young people took on that ownership of even helping older people to learn how to navigate through getting online, because a lot of our older generation did not know how to use Google Meets and all of that stuff. So they actually the student became the teacher in some regard to helping them to navigate through that. So I'll leave it there because this is not my moment, but I so resonate with everything that Dr. Shauli shared, and I'm just glad to be here. It's a passion that we love the youth, and working with them is something that is our life's purpose. So thank you so much.
Yes, thanks so much for sharing that passion. And of course, a lot of what we're doing with Women of Truth is positioning thought leaders that are giving service to the community, that are bringing their wisdom and their guidance to support this planetary change that we are busy with, that actually right now requires us to pour some love into the youth. So back to you, Dr. Shauli. If we're looking at these challenging times as really pivotal catalysts for skills to develop in young people and in all of us, really, as we've already mentioned, self-leadership has been one, being able to, from Amber Leon's comment, great there, to think about how the student became the teacher, that, you can see how resourceful you really are when you are able to help parents, grandparents. So there's been quite an interesting shift in power, in what does it mean to be powerful when I'm helpless, inside the COVID challenge. And looking forward now, as you speak about innovation and out of the box thinking, in your experience as an educator, I wonder if you can bring us maybe into a thinking plan around how we might be able to help develop those qualities. The ingenuity, the innovation, the creativity is something inborn in us, but somehow the educational system strips us bare. I've seen the statistics, and as a clinical psychologist, I see it all the time in young men, actually, quite a lot more and quite often. So I recognize it, and I'm wondering if we can support people, young people and parents, to begin to think a little bit about how they can facilitate this juicy, creative, innovative part of the human psyche to stay alive in children and to keep developing. In your work as an educator, what have you seen working?
So definitely in terms of maybe a workable solution, if you're looking at a kind of a workable solution, I would definitely like to state that, we need to allow more time to the young learners, which they can actually effectively utilize in following their curiosity, creating, sharing, exploring, and experimenting with their unique and novel ideas. That is the first thing. The second thing is, it has got something to do with us. We have to stop stigmatizing failures and mistakes. That is something that we need to do as adults, as responsible adults. So we have to stop stigmatizing failures and mistakes, and we have to understand and appreciate the fact that both failures as well as mistakes are essential components of an effective learning experience. So we have to stop stigmatizing them. Additionally, if we truly want our present generation to evolve into creative problem solvers, then we must give them ample scope to explore the three essential P's, and that is play, passion, and purpose. Because we have to understand that it's only a potent combination of play, passion, and purpose that can actually make a person truly creative. And we must allow this young creative mind to not only seek innovative solutions to the problem, but also to spot inherent problems in the existing solution. So this is the kind of a shift that I was actually talking about a little earlier. Also, I feel that the young learners should have complete responsibility and ownership of their own learning. And in order to make that happen, they must have both choice as well as voice. I repeat, both choice as well as voice to determine what, where, and how they would want to learn. So these things are actually very, very important. Additionally, definitely honing and nurturing the 21st century skill sets among our present generation is the need of the hour. Now, skill sets such as critical thinking, effective communication, creativity, meaningful collaboration, analytical thinking, complex problem solving, fast and effective decision making, and at the same time, nurturing one's emotional intelligence. Also, giving due importance to the other kinds of quotient apart from only highlighting on only one kind of quotient, and that is intelligence quotient. The problem with our current education system is that it's too full of IQ, IQ, and IQ. Everywhere it's IQ, right? But what about EQ? The significant research has proved that more than 80% of the success in your life, be it in your professional field or in your personal endeavor, actually depends on your emotional quotient and not on your intelligence quotient. So, nurturing the emotional quotient, nurturing the CQ, the creativity quotient, the PQ, passion quotient, the HQ, the happiness quotient, SQ, the spiritual and the social quotient. And most importantly, what COVID has taught all of us is that we need to hone and nurture the AQ as well, which is the adversity quotient. How to deal with the vagaries of life, how to deal with the uncertainties of existence. So these kind of quotients, I mean, developing these quotients are, absolutely essential rather than only highlighting on IQ. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that, you know, maybe the time is right now that we have to realize that we need maybe, less of IQ and more of EQ, less of cutthroat competition and more of collaboration and cooperation. Because the two important skill sets which are actually required to thrive in the 21st century VUCA world happens to be collaboration and cooperation and not cutthroat competition. So these are the kind of shifts that we require. Maybe we need less of, maths and science literacy and more of emotional literacy in our children, in our young learners. And we have to develop them into, ethically, morally, socially, and environmentally responsible human beings. So that is what a true and real education should aim at, rather than always trying to harp at whether you know uh, it is actually instrumental in increasing your grades and marks. So rather than running after your grades, marks, and scores, I think these are the areas which are the most important areas which needs to be developed among the generation.
Excellent. I'm so happy they have you there at that university. I'm so happy to hear all your beautiful insights and to stand with you as we become really clear and loud about how proud we really are of this generation that are learning to be so agile at a very young age, and in fact starting to reframe how we look at young people and to be very careful of our projections onto them as adults who are living in a world that's actually very different to the one that's being shaped out right now. We had some very amazing golden nuggets, pearls of wisdom, really, around how to develop creativity and innovation. So I'm going to just go through these. They're on the box. If anybody wants to, listen back to this and follow some of these notes, you have a very beautiful script here of what you can do. If you're a parent or an educator, it's really important to begin to give more time for this creativity to breathe and expand. According to Dr. Shauli, who's had extensive decades of educating young people, experience and knowledge deepening through this COVID time as well. She's giving us some very good indicators to also feed the curiosity. It's a very, very powerful thing to be curious as a young person, and to comment as a parent or as an educator by, oh, don't bother looking at that, you won't find any answers, or are you sure you want to, explore that, rather do this. We have a lot of ways that we block and stop in the world, and we need to be careful of that. So we want to rather be feeding the curiosity in young minds, let them explore, encourage exploration, investigation, and also very important for us to take the responsibility to stop stigmatizing failure and mistakes. I think this is so important. There are so many ways that we unconsciously sabotage the development of the blossoming of young knowledge and young ingenuity, because we know, or we've experienced so many ways that things work out, and we just assume that that's all there is. And I know living in communities like here where I am, we have even the tendency to have a lot of what's called helicopter parenting or overprotective parenting. And this can become very critical thinking towards children and their way of finding out what works. It's a lot of blocking and stopping again. So as parents and educators, maybe after watching this video, let's commit to make sure that we don't put that projection onto children that their failures and their mistakes are wrong. In fact, they are incredible opportunities to discover new combinations, and there is real science around that. So if you want some evidence, do a Google search on it. We really get cleverer the more times we try out things, because we practice diversity and we begin to build ourselves up even more. Point number 4 is, for real problem solvers of the future, says Dr. Shauli, we need to be able to support a 3-pronged process, which is around play, passion, and purpose. So if you're an educator, see if you can build this in. It's a triad, very, very important. How do children play more? How can you expand and support their passion to develop? And how do you give direction and purpose? How do you support them to find that? Number 5 is to really spot the inherent problems in what's going on in society. We need to be supporting young people to be able to look for that in the environment, not to assume or protect ourselves by thinking that we've got it all right, or give that message over, that in fact there are a lot of global challenges we're facing nowadays, and it's really important that we have young, fresh blood coming into that creative think tank brainstorm process. So we want to start encouraging that in young people. How can they begin to look at what's here with a new approach? And then also really important, point number 6, is to begin to own their own leadership, their own educational process, to be able to own that and to be the authority of it. We need to have a way of supporting them to have 2 great things. And this was so beautiful because you made it rhyme, and we're going to remember it for that. So thank you, Dr. Shauli. How to have choice and voice for the learning process. And then, of course, it's very important to be developing critical thinking. I came out of a university that really put attention on that. And I think it was invaluable to learn to think critically about every piece of theory that came across our desks, every researcher that was there. We had to go into a critical thinking process with it. So I think it's such an important skill, so that you can begin to think yourself, as opposed to becoming indoctrinated or suggestible to information that's out there. And we really do need independent thinkers. So this is so important, to be able to create pathways of learning where young people can learn how to work with communication meaningfully. They need to be able to collaborate rather than compete. You said that a few times, Dr. Shauli. And also the decision-making process needs to be nurtured. It's not an easy thing to make the right choices in life and to actually make decisions when they really need it. So many of us avoid and escape that, or we end up doing what other people expect of us, or what we are most afraid of. We just simply run from that. So to be able to be powerful in your decision making is a very underrated skill, and something we need to be focused on in develop even more in ourselves, and also in how we support young people to do the same. How to nurture the EQ, not just the IQ. You went into some great detail there about all the different types of intelligences. If you want to follow Dr. Shauli on LinkedIn, you'll be very moved by her very poignant, compassionate, as you can see, and positive approach to young people, and really, I think, very pivotal perspective on what young people need nowadays. I would love to thank you again for your contributions, both Amber Leon and Dr. Beth Bakar and Dr. Shauli Mukherjee. It's been lovely to have you. I'm going to hand you over for one last comment, Dr. Shauli, and then we move to our Woman of Truth expert, who's going to give her very specific guidance. And today we're joined by Dr. Tatiana Trashkova, who's actually a passionate physician who's working on integrative health solutions for us to listen more to that inner voice. And she has a message for young people today, which I'm going to show to you on a video very soon. Dr. Shauli, your last comments.
I would only like to say that, understanding that there are I mean, it's absolutely essential for all of us to come together in order to redefine and reimagine the education system, the current education system, because it's no longer serving us. So, after understanding all that, should we still continue to align ourselves with a system that encourages our learners to fit in instead of stand out, to conform instead of challenging the status quo? So that would be my question. I mean, this is the kind of a question which I keep on asking myself as a self-reflective educator. I would like to pose this question to almost all the thoughtful people, those who are maybe watching this particular show. So maybe the time has come when we have to rethink, and we have to reconsider, and we have to redefine a lot of things that we have taken for granted for so many years.
Absolutely. And this is a time we've actually been so well prepared for with what we've just passed through. We've been shaken out of our comfort zones and are rearranging so many things. And so let's see it as an opportunity to really reconsider what are the priorities. And you've had some really amazing inspiration tonight. So I encourage you to send this video to educators, to parents, to people that are playing an important role in youth development, and even to young leaders themselves, because hearing this kind of validation and this acknowledgement and understanding of where they are, what they need, choice and voice is what stays with me. There is great power from that. And now a very important message from Dr. Tatiana. Thank you so much, Dr. Shauli. Thank you so much, Amber and Dr. Beth Bakar. We'll be seeing both Amber Leon and Beth Bakar in the rest of the week. In fact, Amber comes on tomorrow, and Dr. Beth will also have a conversation with us, very much like today, when in fact we'll hear both these experts share with us tomorrow in an hour slot. And if you haven't noticed, we are also showcasing a musical genius, a songwriter called Savi Kabu. You'll hear some of her music on Thursday, Friday, and we'll actually be speaking to her in person on Saturday, together with some other young leaders and another two amazing experts talking to us about their work with youth. So over to Dr. Tatiana now, who's going to share her message for young people.
Hello, beautiful women from all over the world. My name is Tatiana, and I have a message for you. My message to you is that you are beautiful, amazing, just the way you are. And yes, you're powerful too. So I'm a holistic doctor and mentor who supports and guides people through the process of healing from inside out, the process of accessing their inner power, wisdom, which we all have within. Yes, we have it. We just sometimes disconnect from it, we forget about it, and the thing is we need to remember it and to get back in touch with ourselves. Yes, I support and guide people, mostly women, on their process of healing. They come to me with problems like anxiety, panic attacks, chronic fatigue, burnout, feeling disempowered, melancholic, and so on. Some are also facing many autoimmune disease. What I do is actually support them through this healing process. And I would like to tell you my story, because my story actually inspired me to do what I do. So 15 years ago, I experienced depression, quite heavy, and I was feeling worthless, insecure, devastated after a breakup and moving across the world to finally be with my guy and my partner. Actually, it didn't end up being good, and I was feeling miserable, disconnected, really, really low. At that time, I realized that what actually happened to me is that months and months before that, I was feeling that something was not well, was not right. I was feeling inside that the relationship, all my steps that I was doing to hold on into this relationship were actually far away from what my soul was desiring and far away from what my body was telling me. My body was telling to me, this is not okay. My body was telling to me, you're not feeling good. My body was telling me, you're losing your power, you're losing your energy, you're losing your sleep and everything, and peace, mostly peace. So I decided to take this thing, this depression, this burnout, as a message from my body. Tatiana, stop doing to you something that is not well, something that is not good for you. Please come back to yourself, come back to your own wisdom, come back to your home. And that is my message for you. If you're feeling insecure, if you're feeling disconnected, disempowered, if you're feeling sick, if you're suffering from depression, anxiety, burnout, any chronic disease, then maybe think about this. Is your body and your heart actually saying to you and inviting you to reconnect with yourself? I'm sure it is. And I'm actually sure that our illness, especially chronic one, is pulled from our inner self, pulled from our heart and body to access our wisdom, power, strength from within. It's so important to do it. So I invite you to take a moment, to take a deep breath right now, right here, and sense how you feel in your body. Sense how it feels in your body when I say to you, what if your body, what if your inner wisdom is calling for reconnection? Take a deep breath, one more. What would your life look like, feel like, if you would be really listening to yourself? And if you would be really loving yourself? Not other people, what they say to you, what they want from you, but yourself. How would you feel in your body? How would your life look like? Yes, these are the questions that I invite you to start asking yourself. And if you would like to have some help around it, if you would like to have some guidance around it, if you would like to learn tools, and mostly the process of re-empowerment, the process of inner healing, I kindly invite you to visit my website and my programs, check them, and see if they call you, if something in your body, in your heart ignites when you go through the program, what's actually about. I would love to meet you online, in person, and I would love to support you if this message ring in your heart. So my website is www.tatrankava.eu/en. Please check it out, and we see you on the other side. Wishing you all the best, hugging you, and be kind to yourself. You deserve all the best.
A very special message from Dr. Tatiana in Slovenia. She's actually one of our health thought leaders. And as you noticed, she was talking a lot about coming back to this inner center, this inner self, this powerful, powerful part of us that we can return to in order to feel that we are home again. And if any of you are suffering from anxiety or panic attacks or anything that's making you feel really upset or uncomfortable in your body, I would like to encourage you to actually reach out to somebody. We actually initially planned the summit for young female leaders and decided to open it out so anyone can watch, anyone's welcome. And of course, then you see that some of our experts are talking about very specific ways that they can help you if you are struggling with some emotional or mental health issue. And there is a lot of ways that we can also begin to help ourselves. So if you want to explore some of the content on this summit, you'll see that we've also looked at the subject yesterday of what young women might be struggling most with at the moment. And we had a great guest called Bianca Filo tell us, a young woman herself, a human rights lawyer who just got employed, about the challenges of being seen and taking up space as a young woman in the world, in the marketplace. And we had some great solutions from Bianca, a few tips that she gave about how to help yourself take up space wherever you might be in your life. So if you're starting a career and you want a little bit of new thinking around what you can do to get yourself more opportunities or to feel more comfortable where you are, or to step into a new place, you can go and have a look at that video. Tonight we talked about educational reform. How do we actually help educators, parents, and you yourself to acknowledge the great gifts that are happening at the time post-COVID, but also the really important ways that you can begin to build yourself up. We have some of those points that we mentioned already, but you can see them on the comment here of the YouTube video. And we're going to sign off tonight with the music and inspiration of Savi Kabu, a young songwriter. We wanted to support the visibility of a creative, artistic process. And I'm going to share with you one of her videos called Music on the Daily. And this is a video that Savannah actually, her real name Savannah, her stage name Savi Kabu, she actually recorded this video herself and developed her songwriting herself without much guidance or help, which gives a very powerful message to anyone out there that when you're really passionate about something, I encourage you to find what that is. When you're passionate about something, you can make it go very, very far. And like Savannah, she's written over 60 songs in about a year and a half. She's really devoted to her music, and she's developing her own way of using technology to build her way of processing difficult emotions, which is through her music. And on Saturday, she's going to tell us all about that. For now, we're going to say goodbye with music and with song, and I wish you all a beautiful week. Thank you so much, Dr. Shauli. Lovely to have all your beautiful silver linings gracing our pages, and lovely to be working with you this time. I look forward to the next opportunity, and to Amber Leon and Dr. Beth, who came on earlier. Thanks again for supporting. The live streams are up. Every night we have a new video until Sunday, supporting youth on different issues, parents, and also educators. Thanks so much. And now over to Savannah and Savi Kabu.
Close my eyes. Sit on
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful